Number one reason that your solos aren't sounding as pro as they should is down to phrasing, not the notes or scales that you're playing. This is the thing that pros do that you are not doing, or maybe you're not doing as much as you should, and you certainly probably aren't focusing on it. This is the biggest single differentiator between people who kind of play and are improving and pros. It's down to phrasing. But what does phrasing actually mean? It just means the articulation, the way you shape the notes, the slurs, the bends, the scoops, the vibrato, all this stuff. And I'm going to blast through it all today. But first of all, here's a little example of the difference between the two. First of all, here's what a solo sounds like with little or no phrasing, just running up and down the chords and scales and getting the notes right, but not sounding pro. Here we go. Now let's contrast that with the solo where I'm using phrasing, articulation, half-tonguing, all these things I'm just about to teach you about. And this is the difference in what it sounds like, and I'm sure you'll agree. This is the difference between what you might be doing and what I might be doing. So I'm just about to break down all the contributory factors of phrasing that you should be thinking about to make your solo sound more pro. But if you're wondering why my video looks a bit different today, I'm doing an experiment. This entire video, all the content is just created using my mobile phone camera and this CLOUDVOCAL FLASHTRACK microphone that you can see here. It probably sounds weird, so I'm picking it up. So all the saxophone playing, the backing track is coming in there, the voice is coming in here, and I'm literally just using the files straight from my mobile phone. I've done a whole video. I'll link it in the description and try and put a card up there about the FLASHTRACK, but it's a really cool device and I just wanted to showcase it on this video. Next week I'll get my usual camera, but I just wanted to show you how cool it is to use the FLASHTRACK for once. Right, let's talk about phrasing and break down the elements one by one. Okay, the first thing to mention is what you should not be doing. Before you can start layering up all this great phrasing to sound more pro when you solo, the first thing you need to do is wipe the slate clean with all the dodgy phrasing and habitual stuff that you might be throwing into every note that you're playing without even knowing it. You've got to reset the clock. I cover all this in my Phrase Like a Pro course. In fact, everything you're learning today is explained step by step in great detail in that whole course. That is your Bible for phrasing. First of all, though, you just want to play some simple notes. I call it the reset exercise. It's in Phrase Like a Pro. And you make sure you record yourself with your phone and you make sure that you're not using any vibrato, that there's no there's no note scoops or bends into the notes. There's no coloration or change in timbre or pitch. You just play the note straight as it comes out the packet. Bah! If you can't do that, and you're already throwing in a bunch of, subconscious phrasing that you don't even know you're doing, you're already on a very sticky wicket. So, first of all, you have to reset the playing field before you even do anything. Right, then we get into some of the foundations of phrasing. First of all, your basic articulation. And I've done other videos on the technique that you can use for articulation. But first of all, you've got your basic kick-off tonguing where you start a note. You are closing the reed against the mouthpiece with your tongue. And then you've got a bit of air pressure there already. The mouthpiece is sealed. You pull your tongue away and the note starts. Ta! That's what I call kick-off tonguing. Sounds like this. Next, you can do the same thing, but if you put your tongue back on the reed and close it shut against the mouthpiece immediately, you get a staccato note, which is a short note. Tat, 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 tat. So you're letting your tongue go and then immediately getting it back to seal the reed against the mouthpiece. That is staccato tonguing. That sounds like this. Then you can link your regular tongue to notes with the short notes to get the building block of so much music and jazz, the long short. T-dat, T-dat. That long note needs to join right up to the staccato, and the staccato needs to be nice and short. I call this polarized phrasing. The shorts are short and the longs are long. In the real world, of course, there's lots of variations of length and some notes are a bit longer and shorter than others, but to begin with, you need to Morse code this. You need to make it long and short, dots and dashes. T-da, T-d, sounds like this. Okay, now I'm quickly going to cover one of the least talked about things about playing saxophone and sounding good when you're phrasing jazz and pop and funk and all that kind of stuff. And that is half-tonguing. Half-tonguing differs from other types of tonguing because you actually leave your tongue in contact with the reed. I'll put a link for the half-tonguing video in the description. So if you lightly rest your tongue against the reed, but not enough to stop it vibrating, you get a more muffled sound, kind of like when you're palm muting guitar and you get those muffly notes. This is going to make your lines sound 3D, like they've got some light and shade. So half-tonguing is a bit tricky. There's another way of doing it where you just tongue one side of the reed. You close off one corner of the reed. Go and watch the whole video on half-tonguing. But this is what half-tonguing sounds like, and it's absolutely vital if you're going to phrase like a pro, literally, and sound great when you're taking your improvised solos. Check it out. Right, that covers what I call the foundations of phrasing. And if you don't get those things right first, there's no point in moving on to the fancy stuff. Let me tell you, this is an additive process. You've got to form the foundations and then build on top of it. So the next thing we're going to look at is some of the adornments to the notes, which are going to really bring the music to life and make it really sound more human and singing. The first of which is grace notes. Grace notes are a very quick note that comes before the target note. Can be a semitone, could be a tone, could be any note. It could even be above. Grace notes sound like this. The next adornment is called turns, and that is when you're at the top of a line and you're going down and you add a little twiddle at the top. Now, there's a bit more to it than this, especially in classical terms. It's all in phrase like a pro. But basically, if you go doo-ba-doo-ba-dee-da-ya, that's what a turn is. It's when the line is going down and you do a twiddle above it. Just before I demonstrate this, hey, I'm trying to head to get 100,000 subs at the moment. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do click the subscribe button right now if I can get my words out. It's really going to help me reach more saxophonists like you, and the next read you pull out your box is going to work like a dream. That's how karma works. So here's what turns sound like. Thanks for subscribing. Now, so far, there has been zero deviation in pitch in anything that I've mentioned so far. No deviation in pitch. The first deviation in pitch we're going to talk about starts right now, and it's called a scoop. It's where you bend the pitch of the note into the target note. Now, if you don't know how to do this properly and you're not doing it the right way, you're well advised just to stick to grace notes. You're going to sound much more pro using grace notes instead of badly executed scoops. And, I've done a few videos on the dreaded BWOWS. So the idea here is that you use your voicing to bend the pitch of the note into the main target note. And you can also kind of scaffold that note bend by using a grace note fingering, but just smear it and smooth it out. This is what scoops sound like when they're done properly. Okay, and real quick, we're going to cover all the other stuff that happens before the note and after the note. So you have got fall-offs. Now, there's two ways of doing this. One is what I call a non-fingered fall. This is just when you drop your voicing in your jaw. You go bow, so you could call it a bow. And BWOWS sound like this. Now, if you want to do a longer fall and you're going to finger notes after it, that's called, well, I just call it a fall, and falls sound like this. Now, if you reverse that fall, you can do a rip, which is when you rip up to a note, like the start of Baker Street, for example. That sounds like this. So two more in this category. If you're rapidly going down to the note to start it, I call that a Beeup. It's an onomatopoeic term for when you go Beeup, Beeup, ba-da-ba. So this is what a Beeup sounds like. And at the end of the note, if you want to do a rapid rising scoop, we call that a doit, D-O-I-T, a doit, which is another onomatopoeic term because it's going doi. That's what this is what that sounds like. I've got one more adornment to mention, but just real quick, in case you haven't heard, I am doing the inaugural Saxophone Success Formula Live Saxophone Weekend in Birmingham at the Conservatoire of Music from January the 3rd to the 5th next year, 2025. It's going to be an event unlike anything you've ever seen, and enrollment is starting on Friday, the 1st of November 2024. Sorry if you are watching this video in the future. Tickets are going to be available to the general public from the 1st of November, but if you're inside the inner circle, you're going to get first dibs at those tickets, and tickets are limited. So, never been a better time to join the inner circle in case you miss out. We're going to follow the journey of the saxophone sound. This is going to revolutionize and transform your saxophone playing and set you up for your best ever 2025. And it's going to be your first ever opportunity to hang out with me. And I'll be doing a gig. There'll be a jam session. There'll be lots of different groups for different standards. We're doing improvising. It's just going to be absolutely insane. It's going to be the weekend of your life. So if you're on my mailing list, you'll be informed about that. So look out for the post. And we're getting really excited because we're launching it this week. So make sure you don't miss out. Join the inner circle. Okay, back to the plot then. So the final adornment I'm going to mention now is a glissando. This is when you connect two notes with other quieter notes. They could be diatonic. They could be chromatic. And glissandos sound like this. So these are all the things that you should be focusing on. And what's the best way to learn it? Honestly, the best way to learn it is from the other fantastic players that you love. So you want to take a solo. There's plenty of examples transcribed inside Phrase Like a Pro. And you want to forensically analyze exactly what's happening with the articulation, the scoops, the bends, the turns, the grace notes, all that stuff. And you want to copy it exactly until you are a shadow of what it sounds like. Here is a quick example from Phrase Like a Pro, which is an example of how you can forensically copy phrasing and sound like the original, putting it all together. Now, this doesn't have to be fancy. Just as a final demo, let me just demonstrate that you could actually use just one note. And if you're playing it with good phrasing, you can play a pretty, respectable chorus on Blue Bossa. I'm using the Better Tracks backing track at the moment, by the way. Just using one note with good phrasing and good groove. We haven't even mentioned, playing with good groove. These two things are, there's no separating good phrasing and good groove. They've got to come together. You can sound so much more pro, even using one note, using these techniques. Check it out. Awesome sauce. That's all we got for this week. It's been a whistle-stop tour of phrasing, demonstrating just how important it is and how most people are lacking that one element, which is going to make their solos sound so much more pro. If you want to get a bit more in-depth tuition like this, go and check out my free Saxophone Success Masterclass. You can see the link there, and the link is in the description. That's a free hour of teaching which can really move the needle on your playing. It's going to be pretty awesome. As I already mentioned earlier, this week we're opening registration for the Saxophone Success Formula Live. Make sure you watch your inbox for that, and if you're not on my mailing list, make sure you go and grab a PDF or go to my website, get on that mailing list. Otherwise you're going to miss the tickets because they are strictly limited, let me tell you. Thanks so much for watching. If you've subscribed today, I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. We're pushing to try and get 100,000 subs and get that play button. That will be exciting times. Okay, until next week, where I'll be filming like normal without the old FLASHTRACK. Oh, by the way, there's a link in the description if you want to get your hands on a FLASHTRACK. Until next week, practice hard, practice smart, and enjoy your music. Take it easy. I call that a doit because you're no, I don't. This is when a melodic line goes up, and at the top of the melodic line, and it. But we're just talking to the.